for upliftment, upgradation of the new education policy, because education now is all to begin with a new beginning. We will have new dynamics, we will have the whole culture will be changed very soon. Now, in this kind of challenging time, rather trying times, it is very important that we must communicate with the parents, because parents form a very major role. They are a major player. Rather, when I say about parents, parents are 60% to 70% of what the actual child is, a student is, because at school we do most of the grooming, but at home we have to inculcate the rich heritage, the rich culture, and the basic fundamentals of living a good life. Schools, I feel, we do have a very strong impact on our lives, but school is a grooming place, and a parent is a pillar to both the school and the child itself. So I hope today they will all be enlightened to have Professor Handu sir himself addressing them. And I would request everybody here that if we use bilingual for the parents, that will be much more effective and understandable. अगर हम अपने पेरेंट्स, जो बहुत से हमारे ऐसे पेरेंट्स हैं जिन तक हमारी आवाज, जिन तक उनको दिल को छूने वाली बात, उनको समझने वाली बात, उनकी अपने मादरी जबान में हम नहीं बताएंगे, तो ऐसे हम भाषण की तरह देते जाएं, उनको लगेगा अच्छा साहब बहुत पढ़े लिखे लोग आए हैं, कुछ कुछ बोल के गए हैं, पर दिल में उतरने वाली बात तो उनकी मदर टंग में, यानी उनकी अपनी जबान में ही होगी। तो पेरेंट्स, आप जैसा जानते हैं, आपने अपना बच्चा अंग्रेजी स्कूल में डाला है, वो इसलिए नहीं कि उसको अंग्रेज बनाए, हम ये समझते हैं इसलिए क्योंकि अंग्रेजी एक वर्ल्ड लैंग्वेज है। तो हम आपके बच्चे के अंदर वो सारे गुण चाहते हैं जो एक वर्ल्ड सिटीजन के लिए हो। और मैं बहुत ज्यादा समय नहीं लूंगा आप में और सर के बीच में, और सिर्फ इतना चाहूंगा, इतना कहूंगा कि आप पूरी तरह से प्रोफेसर हांडू को सुनिएगा, देखिएगा, एक नया फील होगा। और मुझे उम्मीद है आज का ये सेशन अपने आप में एक निराला सेशन है। दिस काइंड is not that everybody in and around Varanasi is doing. We only take up the student as a responsibility, but we never ever think about the people, the parent who are actually responsible behind that responsibility. ये इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं आप सबको ये भी बोलूंगा कि सुरक्षित रहिए, अच्छे से रहिए, हाथों को सैनिटाइज करिए और मास्क लगाइए, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग रखिए। हम आपके बच्चों के लिए अपने स्कूल को याद रखते हैं। ये भी रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जो लोग अपना इसको ज्वाइन करते जा रहे हैं वो अपने आप को म्यूट करते रहें, ताकि आपको बगैर किसी डिस्टरबेंसेस की सारी बातें सुनाई दें अच्छे से। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, वेलकम अगेन to your own
Yes.
place. This is your home turf. Or once again, I congratulate all the principals and teachers and each and every one of the family of Dalim, that we all have worked really hard during these trying times, be it online education or be it offline preparation. And hats off to Madam Madhok, as I've seen her devoting hours and hours in a day. अपनी आंखें फोड़ फोड़ के इन्होंने पूरी तरह से, हाँ इसीलिए बोला ये स्लैंग कि थोड़ा मुस्कुराहट आए सबके शब्दों में, कि मुस्कुराहट के साथ चीजें ज्यादा अच्छी तरह समझ में आती हैं. So Madam Mohan, with these words, I
Yes.
thank you for inviting me. I'll be online, I'll be listening everything, but as a disciplined student, मैं अपने आप को म्यूट करता हूँ अभी. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Krishna, am I unmuted? Once again, I'm back. And this time, I think all of you need a proper introduction to Professor Handu. He's now joined our bandwagon, and the reason why we have Professor Handu is he is one of the most experienced persons that we could have, because he's been on the panel of the best of schools in the country. And why not? With his experience of more than 47 years, I think Sir has been the principal of the best of schools across the country, from Srinagar to Rajasthan to Delhi. If I start reading out the list, I think the time will be over. So I'll not start reading out the names, but his degrees are impressive, and he's done his MA in English from UK. He's got a degree of MEd, and he's a first gold medalist. He's got the PG diploma in distance education from IGNU. He's done his PhD in cognitive psychology. He's got a doctorate in educational psychology from the USA. And apart from that, he's been on the CBSE panel. He's been in the accreditation committee of the NABET. And the list is endless. He is running the ICSE, ICES. He's been on the panel of universities. And then he has been training the leaders in our school and across the country. So why should we not take his expertise for making our school leaders and our teachers better and better? Because we also have the desire to be better than the best. So Professor B.L. Handu is with us not only for a year or two, but the journey will continue with him, and he will keep on giving his expertise, his inputs to all of us for years to come. So now it'll be over to Professor B.L. Handu, and he will give his guidance, and he will tell you what the school intends to do in the coming days when the school opens up, and why you should be sending your children to school, because the school is definitely taking all possible measures to make learning good for your children. And all the measures, we've passed on everything to Professor Handu, and we want to assure you that the school has done everything possible, and we open out to you. Over to you, Professor Handu. Let me not take further time. It's indeed a pleasure for all of us to have your...
Good morning, everybody. Krishna, could you put it on the speaker mode, please?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Krishna, I am waiting for you. Put it on the speaker mode. All right. I begin. Krishna may take a little time. Thank you, Madam Rashmi Mohan. Thank you for that brilliant introduction. I don't deserve all that, to be very honest with you. A humble teacher, with all the humility at his command, a believer in destiny, a believer in God. Therefore, that's all I have. And whatever achievements you spoke of, they are not my achievements. They are the achievements of my colleagues, my teachers, my friends, my students. They kept on achieving. And in Hindi, we have a quote that says, "Lade Fauj to naam Sardar ka." That's what has happened. They have been fighting these battles against ignorance and illiteracy, and people have been giving all the awards and the appreciations to me. Thank you, and thank you to Babaji also. Baba Madhok made a wonderful beginning. He gave us the ideal guidance as to what it all was and why we had assembled today. I am predominantly addressing my parents, but I would like my teachers to be a little focused, because if I make a mistake somewhere, they should note it down and point it out to me that, sir, this promise you made to the parents will not be able to make it up. Please guide us how we should be doing it. I know you all are far more capable than the advice that I'll offer you. I talk to my parents, whom I treat as the first stakeholder in a school. A school is not made of bricks and mortar. A school does not have only infrastructure. It's important that a school has aesthetically designed good infrastructure, but that's not enough. A school may have excellent teachers. It has to have students who come from good families. When I talk of good families, I'm not looking at economics. I am looking at traditions, culture, values, where parents desire that my child should achieve something in life which would be better than what I have achieved. He should tomorrow be a testimony to my culture and my education. And then, last of all, the parent, who is the main stakeholder of education. You have been a very important stakeholder, and most of you, because you are parents today of children from class 9 to 12, have had your children and the experience of having your children educated in our school for the last so many years now. Maybe some are 3 to 4 years old, they joined in class 9th or they joined in class 11th, but that number must be very few. Majority of you have been with us right from the beginning. You know how the schools have grown. You know how schools across Varanasi, across India have grown. The first point that I would talk to you is that the time in which we are living today is a very uncertain kind of a time. It's a challenging time. It had no precedent in history. I, in my lifetime, have never come across such a situation where I had to close down my schools or educational institutions for such a long duration. It's not only the schools remaining closed, where crores of people lost their jobs, where people had to either undergo a cut in their salaries or miss their salaries totally, where people had to migrate back to their native places, where industry collapsed, where economics failed, where GDP fell down, and where prices started rising. So we're facing two problems. One was the problem of corona, the coronavirus 19, and saving ourselves from this deadly infectious disease, following the instructions given to us by our health departments and through our Ministry of Home Affairs, through our Ministry of Education. We received instructions from them, SOPs from them. The second was the economic depression that we were all passing through. And the third and the most important thing, we were passing through a phase of where new norms were being developed. I call it an era of new normals. You will agree with me, within a month or two after things start improving, you will realize that we are living perhaps in a different world. The world in which we lived before March will have been forgotten, and much of the things have changed. The new normals being established, the first thing that I have learned, for example, and I'm sure you also must have learned, is the principle of minimalization. I learned to live on minimums. I didn't have much of the things available at me at my home. And because I was past 60, I was not allowed to go out of my home. So there were minimum things on which I have to survive, minimum clothes on which I had to live, minimum amount of money on which I have to make my existence. So the principle of minimalization which has revolutionized whole of Japan, which is being followed today by the Japanese, where a gentleman at my age or at a younger age lives on 2 suits. That's more than enough for him. He doesn't need a car. He can use a tram or a car, or some other mode of transport. Well, this will be one great change. We will learn to manage with minimum number of things and yet lead a successful life. The second change that has come is a change in our lifestyle. We have learned to maintain distances socially, not emotionally. We have learned to face tribulations and tensions with fortitude and courage. Our faith in God has tremendously increased. I am happy. I'm really happy to find that this crisis, even though it had multitude of disadvantages, had certain advantages. And out of those advantages, one of the biggest advantage was that we started praying more to God. We started getting inwards. We started realizing the power within. We started having faith that we would survive. And therefore, we became courageous. We learned emotional resilience. We built up the capacity of social empathy, sympathizing with those who were suffering and empathizing with those who needed our help. And there are people who have helped others at the cost of their own facilities. Now, in the new times, once we start working and once things start getting normals, don't expect we will have the same normals that we used to have. We'll have new normals. I am sure Rashmi ji said that we are opening our schools from 19th October. Well, that's great. It's news to me, but I have yet to see the orders coming from the state government of Uttar Pradesh. If they have come, Rashmi ji will at the end of this please confirm them to me. The orders that I know of are from the central government, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they have been passed on to us by the Minister of Education with a large SOP which says that all schools throughout India must open from 15th of October, but the final decisions will be taken by the state governments after consulting the normal districts and even the zones, because there are still in our country more than 300 hot zones, red zones, what you call us, where there is possibility of contamination. And then we have experiences where schools were open and then they had to be shut down in certain foreign countries. I pray to God that that doesn't happen in our country, because the academic had a spurt because they didn't follow the norms that had to be followed. We have gone through these regulations. We have gone through these SOPs that the government of India has laid down, which are from the health departments, from the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, the Ministry of Education. Together they have come up with certain ideas and laid them as standing operating procedures for us to follow. And I am sure my principals in their conversation with me have told me that they have taken you through a virtual tour. Some of them have sent you a PPT, some of them have shown you the classes and the preparedness of the schools. I am thoroughly convinced that the schools, if not 100%, are 99.9% prepared to receive our children. We have been longing for them, trust me. My principals, my teachers, and all of us, even the non-teaching staff, are praying to God, please let us see our loved ones once again. You love them, we also love them. We closed the buildings, but we tried to reach them through our online classes. We were with them, and those 1 or 2 hours when we were with your child in the online classes gave us a sense of satisfaction that we were alive, that our life still had a purpose, and that we were doing and reaching out through education to our children, our loved ones. But now a time has come when perhaps maybe 15th, maybe 19th, or maybe 30th, I don't know, the dates have to be verified as per the orders of the state government. And I'm sure the state government will fall in line with the central government. But depending upon the situations at Varanasi and at other places, it may locally decide which schools to open. The decisions may also be that some classes will be open, and after a week other 2 classes or 3 classes will be open. Then after 1 more week, once they are satisfied with the conditions, some more classes may add up. We expect that the junior classes will be added subsequently. Initially, we may have the opening of classes 10th and 12th, or it may be 9th to 12th. One cannot be sure unless we see the orders in black and white. The preparedness for this predominantly is that as the children come to school, the parents are requested that you think very carefully before sending them to school. What are the advantages of sending them to school? What are the disadvantages? Chances of my child receiving proper education in both face-to-face mode and on the online mode. You will have to visualize all that. And you must satisfy yourself that the schools are absolutely ready to give safety and ensure health of your children. For that, I have gone through, discussed it with the parents and seen that preparations have been made. For example, every child's temperature has to be recorded at the gate through a thermal scanner. And if the child is running a temperature of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, then the child has to be sent back home. The child may be kept in a sick bay and the parent may be called, or if the parent has come to drop the child, then the parent may be requested to take him home. If the child's temperature, which I am 100% sure luckily is below 100 degrees Fahrenheit, well, then the child will be asked to sanitize his hands at least. We may try to even get their shoes and their book bags sanitized at the gate itself. Then as they pass through the corridors have already been sanitized. They are high contact zones. And high contact zones like the laboratories, like the library, where the child often goes during the day and touches things, they need to be sanitized after every visit by a class. The classrooms, have been already sanitized. They will be sanitized a day before the children are to join. And once the children go back home, the same day evening, they'll be again kept ready for the next day morning. Besides sanitation, social distance being maintained in the class is very important. It will have to be decided whether the orders of the government say that the whole class will come or only half the class will come, because there is a thinking in the NCERT that we should call some children on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and the rest of the class on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. They want to divide, if there are 40 children in a class, into two groups. Group A will be odd roll numbers, group B would be even roll numbers. But if the parents want that their child is an even roll number but he would join with the odd group, doesn't matter. Or if their child is an odd group and because the parents have a problem he would like to join the even group, it doesn't matter. One or two accommodations can be made. This also is clear from the government orders. So we can have staggering of classes. So the children will come for 3 days. The number of hours will also be dictated by the government. It may not be a 6-hour school initially. It may be only a 3-hour or 4-hour school. I expect not more than a 4-hour school. The children may have, because they have been confined to a place for a long time, there's a lot of distancing that has happened in terms of their friends, in terms of their peers, in terms of their teachers. The children, as they will come to the class, may like to shake hands with their teachers, may like to hug their friends, may like to come close and play with their children. Well, these are the restrictions that will get imposed on them. This will not be possible. And this may make them feel sad. They met their friends after 6 months and then they are not able to hug him or shake hands with him. Now, we will have to exercise these orders on them and ensure for the health and safety of our children that these SOPs are obtained. All these precautions have been trained. The teachers have been acquainted with all the procedures. The support staff is acquainted with this. The heads are vigilant. The principals will be on their toes. The whole management will be alert. And I, on behalf of all my teachers, all my principals who are more than my children, assure you that we'll take adequate care of the safety of your children. Still then, I tell you, the decision of sending your child is your decision. If you decide to send him, the school will be sending a form to you. You will have to testify that you are sending the child not because somebody compelled you, but of your own choice. You would like him to attend the physical classes. If you still want to wait and not to send him, you are at liberty because his online classes will continue. We are going for a hybrid model of teaching, where while we are teaching in the classes, we will try to see that your child receives the same lessons, the same education, or maybe even a kind of a remediation online. So that's the hybrid model where physical classes are going on, maybe for 25 children, and unfortunately 2 children their parents have requested that I would like to receive online education for my child for another 10 days, another 15 days, it will be given to him. Attendance is not going to be a concern for the child. But then, class 10th and 12th is very important to you and to us also. I know you are very eager that your children should score well, should get good marks in these examinations, and we also have girded up our lines. We also are preparing ourselves. Day before yesterday evening at about 10 p.m. in the night, the CBSE has come out with the sample papers for class 10th and class 12th, which means that the design of the paper for these two examinations has finally been approved. We know there is a pressure on the CBSE that because we did not open the schools in late August or early September, and even now it's middle of October, there should be further cut in the syllabi. This is being discussed and debated by the CBSE. They are taking consultations of educators throughout the country. Although they have reduced the syllabi by 30% in all the subjects, that was a decision taken in July and intimated to us as well as other schools. There is a possibility that there may be another 10 to 20%. 20% is the maximum asked for. For example, when they asked me, I said 50% syllabi is more than enough. We must make adequate recommendations. But I know that won't be possible for them, because reducing 20% syllabi will take away some of the major concepts which the child will miss. And tomorrow he may find difficulties in his after 12th classes, whether professional or academic. So we have to wait for those orders also. But by and large, even the pattern of examination for class 10th and 12th has changed. In what way has it changed? You have to understand that about 30% of the questions are simple MCQ questions, a single answer, 1 mark question. I was going through a sample paper. I saw 17 mark questions were simple multiple choice questions. The remaining questions were around 30% of them 2 mark, another 10 to 15% 3 mark, another 5% 4 mark, and another 5% 6 mark. So there is a subjectivity element which may be to the tune of 60%, and 40% is objective. During our online classes, I am sure you will appreciate, we have done whatever we could with all the exposure that our teachers received very quickly in making themselves experienced in delivering lessons online. We did best, and through our assessments, we have taught our children to respond to objective type questions. They have done very well. Our assessments that we have done during the past 4 or 5 months have shown that our children have picked up a lot, and they are doing exceedingly well. Perhaps in some cases, they are doing better than what they were doing in the face-to-face classes. But in the subjective part, where they have to answer 2 mark, 3 mark, 4 mark, or 6 mark questions, the children have not been doing so well. Although we offered them some assignments, we asked them to complete these assignments and send them back to us, but there has not been a mechanism of reporting as yet. Some children, because they did not have the adequate parental support at home, were not able to either post them. They did not have the technological support, but majority of them have come back to us. We have to drill this. We have to drill this in the 2 months of November and December that we have thoroughly, because by December we have planned our pre-board examination number 1. We'll follow it up immediately to remedy the situation. If for some children are not able to do well in the first pre-board, we want to give them another exposure in the second pre-board, and then a third exposure in the third pre-board, so that they are fully prepared to do exceedingly well in the examination. So I can assure you we are prepared to receive them. We are not only prepared in terms of their health and hygiene safety, but we are prepared also in terms of our academic programs, our academic planning. We have gone through the academic calendar that has been published by the NCERT, first for 2 weeks, then for 2 months. And our teachers are ready with the content to be taught, with the methodology to be followed, with the procedure to be adopted, with the evaluation to be done. And if a child is not doing well, how to identify the areas of weakness in the child and how to remedy those areas of weakness. I would request you, please do not depend on half-baked instructors for this knowledge. We have in every part of the country so-called tutors. It's a huge market. We have tutorial batches, and you as parents are within your right. When education is not being imparted to your child as you feel should be, You go to a tutor and he assumes that role of an expert, and because he is able to prepare notes for his child, he studies the question papers of the last 5-10 years. He is an experienced gentleman who knows how the child will answer these questions, and he even gives him the answers. Your child may do well in the examination, but what is he learning? He is learning by rote. He will be able to vomit out these answers in the examination, but if you test him after that in any competitive examination, if you talk to him in any interview, he will not be able to answer anything. That's where schooling differs from tutorial experiences. I would request you, if you have problems, your child is not doing well, ask your child about the areas of his deficiency, the areas of his difficulty. He must point them out to us. Come to the principal and talk to him and tell him, my child is having these areas where he needs support. We will arrange for you that we have remedial classes for him, rather than sending him to a tutor and wasting in these times of new normals when economy is down on a crash. We can't spend money on tutors. We will pay our teachers a little more to spend a little extra time with this child and help him to come up, because a teacher understands the areas of deficiency. We call it, in educational terms, we call it diagnostic remediation. When you go to a doctor, he doesn't simply listen to you and prescribe a medicine. No, he subjects you to a few tests. He notes down your temperature. He studies your pulse rate. He looks at your blood pressure, and then he analyzes. And on the basis of diagnosis, he prescribes a medicine. The same is true of teachers. They are taught to do it. They are taught to look at the answer books. They are taught to look at the method of study of our children. And once they find out what ails him, they suggest remedial course, and they take that remedial course in action. That's my one request to you. My second request to you, we are living presently in the 21st century, and as our beloved Prime Minister has already spoken it a dozen times, we have the greatest advantage in our own country, and that is the demographic dividend. The largest number of youth in our country, largest number of youth across the whole world. Within the next 10-15 years, India will have the largest population between the age group of 15 to 30. Now, this population will not only on marks. Good marks are very important. I don't ignore their importance. But there will be certain other skills that will be needed by the youth of this country. For example, I would like that my children who have come to study in public schools, who are studying in English medium schools and have gone through English medium instruction for the last 10-11 years or even 6-7 years, should have wonderful communication skills. That's a 21st century life skill. If you are not able to communicate yourself through an international language, you will not have any value in the market, whatever your marks. You may be a first class first in the CBSE, but if you are not able to express yourself, if you are not able to express yourself lucidly, clearly, with right kind of words, you may be misunderstood. So communication skills is going to be our focus. That may not be our immediate concern for our 10th and 12th, but our other children in the schools, we are going to focus a lot on helping our children to communicate, to speak well, grammatically correct, with correct pronunciation, and speak politely, speak with humility. That's where our culture and our humility represents us. At the same time, we have come across that children across India are able to speak in good public schools like Dalim's, but when it comes to writing, their writing skills are very poor. I have seen that our children during these online classes also did not get much of written practice. Written practice would happen only if that written work is adequately corrected. If the errors committed by the child are pointed out to him, he is made to review them, repeat them, correct them 5 times, then only he gets rectified. So I would request your help and your support in improving upon the writing skills of our children. We need to do that. While we help them to improve upon their communication skills, we improve upon our correction standards, we look after their assignments and their projects, we point out to them the areas of their weakness and the mistakes that they have committed out. They need to be ensured that they are repeating that, they are correcting those errors, and by and large, they should be given some written exercise. Make them write a letter, two of you sitting in a room, ask him to write what he wants to you and express his feelings. I sometimes am asked to counsel a child or counsel a teacher. I tell the teacher, go home and send an email to me. My purpose is to look at the communication and writing skills of the teacher also, or of the child also. Because when you are communicating confidentially with an elderly person who is a counselor who is going to help you, you are able to express yourself freely. Make your children more and more express, their communication will increase. In addition to the life skill of communicating, both verbally and in the written language, there are certain other life skills also, which will be a prerequisite for the 21st century. For example, collaboration and cooperation. You cannot maintain the social distance maintained today is all right. But for every work tomorrow, wherever you are, you have to learn to live together with people. You have to learn to act. The world is not a world of pure knowledge only, it's a world of action. You are to get into the mode where dignity of labor becomes important for you. Gandhiji was very right when in 1938 he was asked about imparting of education. He said, education in India should be for 3 H's: the head, the heart, and the hand. We have to educate the child for his intellectual development. We have to educate the child for his emotional and effective development. We have to educate him in dignity of labor, teach him a craft, give him a skill, and teach him to love to work. Unfortunately, in India, we have been wonderful at planning, wonderful at coming out with ideas, but when it comes to executing those ideas, we hesitate to work laboriously like laborers. That's the kind of work our students have to learn. We have to also learn that the world is one large family, Vasudeva Kutumbam. That's the Indian concept. It's one large family where there is total interdependence. We are dependent on others and they are dependent on us. And therefore, we have to cooperate. We have to learn to live together. We have to merge and sink our own ego, our own selfish motives. And we have to look at the good of the entire world, which in turn will be our own good. Then we have to see that we are able to empathize. We are able to have some kind of a sympathy and put ourselves in the shoes of another person and visualize how I would act when that person is acting. Now, in addition to this, our children do not need rote memorization. They do not need to learn books and remember them by repeating books like this and moving their bodies and vomiting it out. This won't help them to fit in the 21st century world. They need to think about everything critically. Education is helping the child not only to learn, but to helping him how to think critically. Why does it happen? How does it happen? What would happen if this would not have happened? Now, if this why, what, when, and where is answered by the child, he is developing the capacity of critical thinking. He is developing logic, which is now being introduced at class 6 as a subject, as a new coding subject. We are introducing development of logic in the new policy. We are helping our children because we know we missed this bus because we did not pay attention to our children at a very young age. It is only in the age group of 3 to 5 that the brain of the child develops to the tune of 85%. We did not pay attention because we left the child in a playgroup school where nobody knew how to educate him. We wanted the child to be busy with certain activities. He should have been exposed to colors, sense training. He should have been exposed to multi-level play. That was not happening, and therefore his brain did not develop as it should have. But now in the new policy, it suggests that the first 5 years of child's education from age 3 to age 8 are the foundation years, and a lot of emphasis will be given on this education, where he is taught to develop sensory trainings of his own and develop his vision of what the world is going to be. By class 3, 4, and 5, he will develop further. But by class 3, 4, 5, there is going to be some kind of a skill training also that will be given to him. For 10 days, he will come without bag to his school. And during these 10 days, schools will invite artisans. They will call a porter. They'll call a gardener. They will call a motor mechanic. They will call an electrician. And there will be classes in these trades, in these skills. And every child will have to learn one skill at least. The child can attend more than one skill in 6th, 7th, and 8th. He has to spend 30 days in the skill training. So this is where we are training him through the new policy in hands-on learning. And when he comes to class 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we are not going to have a core curriculum. Today, all our children up to class 10th have to study English, second language, mathematics, science, and social science. Now, this core curriculum will stop at class 8th only now. We will have a common curriculum across the whole country up to class 8th, with teaching being done in mother tongue up to class 5, and maybe in some institutions, especially the government schools, up to class 8. While as we in our schools will have to teach him right from nursery the mother tongue as a language, and as also 2 other languages which the state decides. The state may decide that in addition to Hindi, which happens to be his mother tongue at Varanasi, we should teach him English and Sanskrit or Tamil or some other language and borrow teachers from some other state. Well, that's what the policy says. But once the child comes to class 9th, it's a different world for him. He will have a large number of subjects to choose from. There will be no partitions like science and commerce. There will be no silos that if he takes vocational subject like artificial intelligence, or he takes a vocational subject like beauty and wellness, a vocational subject like insurance or entrepreneurship, well, he is an inferior student. It's only one who takes up sciences, he has a career. No. A student can now take physics, physical education, economics, and pole science. The choice of subjects will be such that every semester he has to obtain certain credits, and examination by the board will be only held twice. The examinations by the school, with the help of the state, will be conducted at the end of class 3, at the end of class 5, at the end of class 8, and then by the board at the end of class 10th and 12th. Keeping all this in view, I have talked to my teachers. I had more than 8-9 meetings with my staff. They were all Zoom meetings, and as soon as schools open, I will be with them physically by their side, helping them, assisting them, guiding them, and wherever they have problems, I'll try to find solutions. If I do not know the solution, I'll go and talk to my friends and find out the solution and bring it back to them. Our purpose will be that we bring a major change in our teaching and learning process. We have been teaching very, but that was meant for the old kind of examinations, the old kind of assessment. Now the teaching that needs to be done has to be more experiential. It has to be more hands-on learning. The children have to be given more projects, project-based learning. There are listed competencies that have to be developed in the child. For example, if I am teaching him a language, he should be able to read that language. He should be able to know the alphabets of that language. He should be able to listen to that language with comprehension. He should be able to write that language meaningfully. He should develop love for the literature of that language. Well, these are the competencies that I have to develop in him. So my teaching will be competency-based teaching. I am guiding my teachers who will make these changes steadily. You will not, see them immediately, but you will see the results of these changes when your child does not only ask us questions, which we would love, but he asks some of the questions to you also. And you as a parent will have to fulfill his curiosity, which is the purpose of education, to make the child a learner and make him ask questions. I must also remind you that I was born and brought up in Kashmir, studied throughout in India, studied at Ajmer, studied at Himachal, studied at Delhi, then went to UK, studied at Leeds. Got my primary trainings in terms of education at Switzerland, the Geneva School, and then went to USA also, at the University of Ferrari, and that's where I spent some time and got my doctorate. These do not matter. What mattered to me was education of a different kind. Wherever I went, I carried the value system given to my parents with me. I have been a complete teetotaler. I am not praising you myself. I have never tasted what a cold drink is. So alcohol was out of bounds. Like Gandhiji was advised by his mother to stay away from wine, women, and wealth, I was advised by my parents not to touch any of these things and concentrate on a future world where I could be able to give this kind of an education to others. Now you will say, sir, you are peculiar. No, my dear, all Indians are like me. This is what we were. If I take you back 100 years or a little more than 150 years, 1838, an English gentleman was deputed by the King of England to come to India. We were ruled by the British at that point of time. He was given 1 year to go through the whole of India and study India and see India thoroughly, and then come back to England and recommend to the king what kind of education should be given to the Indians so that they help us to serve in our offices, and how much money should be paid to him or to the government of the Viceroy General of India, so that he could manage this education. The gentleman was called Macaulay. I had the privilege of going to the National British Museum, which is the largest library in the world, and reading his minutes, where he describes his whole tour of England, a whole tour of India. And I'm reading or quoting. I don't have the text in front of me, but I'll quote. As far as possible, it will be 90.9% accurate. Your Majesty, this is Macaulay saying in the Parliament of England, I have toured the length and breadth of India. Not a single beggar did I come across. 1838, 1838 की बात है, 37 की, 38 में तो रिपोर्ट दिया उसने. He said, I have not come across a single beggar nor a single poor person. सोने की चिड़िया थी हिंदुस्तान. I have seen people who are in love with their spiritual and cultural heritage, but they have one weakness. They love everything that is foreign. And therefore, Your Majesty, I suggest that we draw them away from their culture by making them fall in love with things more and more foreign. And as they fall in love, they will forget their own culture. We will be able to break the back of this nation and enslave her forever. This is what Macaulay did to our education system and did the damage to our country. I see that during the last 10-15 years, there has been a revival of those values. We have started going back to our cultural heritage. We have started realizing that India had a Bhaskara, India had a Chanakya, India had a Vikramaditya, India had great kings, India had great scholars, great architects, great mathematicians. And if India was a source of inspiration and knowledge, why shouldn't our children in our schools receive that Indian knowledge with Indian ethos? Why with foreign ethos? There is no harm in learning with foreign ethos, but let them feel proud of their own cultural inheritance. And there, my dear parents, you are privileged. बहुत खुशकिस्मत हैं आप लोग. Born and brought up in Varanasi. We call this as the spiritual and cultural center of India. Like Delhi, the political capital of India, Bombay, the trade capital of India, the financial capital of India, Calcutta, the revolutionary capital of India, Varanasi is the spiritual and cultural capital of India. In one of my visits, a couple of months back, maybe January or February, I was in Varanasi. I saw a building while going to Kashi Vishwanath, and I was told it's more than 340 years old. 340 years old. Where don't you find culture flowing in? It is we who have forgotten that culture, and we have forgotten to impart that culture to our children. My attempt, my dear friends, you are parents, you have to tell me whether I'm doing right or wrong. I will be requesting my principals, requesting my teachers, that a very important part of our education should be bringing back that culture in our schools, giving them that pride once again in their own cultural practices. We may have to talk of our Indian ethos. We may have to talk of our Indian philosophy. We may have to talk of our great Indian mathematicians, scientists, and great men who gave their lives for the freedom of our country. And once we do that, the emphasis therefore will be on values. You must have seen a crisis in the values. We are not sure. When I send my granddaughter or my grandson to a school, I am not sure whether under peer pressure he is going to go towards drugs or move towards certain other bad habits which have not been permitted for the past 200 years in my family. What do? I am terribly worried. I am terribly perplexed. I try to maintain a vigil, maintain a constant watch, and then I find that my child is coming under a lot of mental pressure. He is getting mentally imbalanced. Sometimes he is depressed. Sometimes he finds himself very lonely. Sometimes in the company of his friends, he is getting misguided. It is because our values have been under a crisis, and schools have not taken up upon themselves imparting of right value education. Now, if schools do that, there are schools in India. I have visited more than 250 schools in India and abroad, more than 200 of them in India only. And I have seen there are schools that are doing a lot like Sunbeam for imparting these values. But can these values be imparted by schools irrespective of the support and engagement and involvement of the parents? The parent is the first teacher of the child. We take over as surrogate parents. The teacher's role begins after the child has been educated in certain things. His habits are already formed. He knows that he has to brush his teeth. He knows that he has to get up in time. He knows that he has to care for his books and his lunch box. He knows the care of his belongings. He knows that he shouldn't take things of others. So you have already prevented him not stealing, not borrowing from others, being in time. You have given him these lessons right from the families. Now, if you cooperate, I am sure you are as eager as we are. We will impart formal direct training in these values. We will use the subjects to teach these values. We'll use the social science subjects especially to teach values, even science to build up a scientific temperament, even languages to improve upon their communication. We'll do that along with values, but we'll constantly need your vigil. Vigilance, my dear friends, is the price of democracy. As long as you are vigilant and you realize that the school is not another corporate house, it's not a business house, it's a house that gives support to us as a non-voluntary organization doing a duty which primarily is the responsibility of the government. But because the government is not able to reach out to so many children, some organization has come forward. You must approach us. It is you and the teachers together. You and the teachers together. Sometimes your suggestions will be far more valuable than I have learned from all the books in education. A minor suggestion from you can sometimes turn out into a practice that can be implemented in the school in a very good way. So in a nutshell, I can say, number one, we are prepared to receive your children, provided you give us the consent that he can come to school. If you say, no, I want him to continue with online education, we'll impart him. Attendance is not an important factor. But if you decide to send him to school through physical online classes, classes as well as online classes, our purpose will to prepare him, the 10th and 12th children, immediately for the board examination, the 9th and 11th classes for immediate covering of their entire syllabi. And will not be focusing only on the content, will be focusing on the technique of how to answer these questions in the examination with 100% accuracy through practice tests, through 3 votes. But overall, for us, education is not only the subjects that will be important, his skill of communication, both verbal and oral, his habits and his values, his regularity, his not losing his temper and staying cool, his bearing stress and not losing his mental balance. We have to support him. The child, the greatest thing that my teachers will be doing with your children immediately for the first 2-3 days, and maybe for some children, maybe a small percentage of children over a longer period of time, is to look after their mental health. Children have been all alone. They have been under some kind of depression. There have been advantages, there have been disadvantages. The biggest advantage has been that those children who could not learn in the physical classes have started doing very well in online classes. Majority of children have started doing online classes, better performance. But now as we bring them back, they must study. Your cooperation is needed for that. You have to understand that as a stakeholder, the teacher is as important, and perhaps you become more important. The teacher spends with him 6 hours. His influence may last a little longer. Einstein said, no teacher ever knows how long his influence lasts. It lasts till eternity. But that was of my teachers who taught me. I can never forget them till I am alive. Today's teachers are forgotten very quickly because the child has many other areas to attend to. Now you have to help him to maintain that influence, to maintain a kind of a vigil on him. Ensure that you spend at least 15 minutes with him at the dining table. I request parents to spend quality time, and quality time for a parent would mean, one particular parent would mean, अच्छा आज क्या किया, तुमने पढ़ाई करी कि नहीं, अरे यार वो टीचर क्या पढ़ाएगा तुमको, उसको थोड़ी आता है, अच्छा चलो छोड़ो, उठो जाओ करो काम. This is not quality time. My dear, quality time is, हाँ बेटा आज क्या क्या हुआ, अच्छा अच्छा बताओ मुझे क्या हुआ, फिर पहले पीरियड में क्या हुआ, सेकंड पीरियड में क्या हुआ, थर्ड में क्या हुआ, फ्रेंड्स के साथ क्या हुआ, कोई नई स्टोरी सुनाओ जो तुमने आज की स्टोरी बुक से पढ़ी, कोई नया प्रोग्राम. You have to maintain a constant watch, a constant vigil, and give him the time to express himself. And please see that he is not getting spoiled by following too much of social media. We had to provide him these tools of social media because we wanted him to have a mobile, have an iPad, have a laptop, because he needed to attend these classes. But he should not be using it for certain other purposes. There you have to exercise your vision. There are tools that can help you. There are methods. If you need our help in that, we can give you the requisite guidance. We can share with you the CDs where you can block all such programs that are not useful for our children. Now, this kind of assistance is needed from you. I would request you at the end that you have to realize that a school, I started with infrastructure, that becomes very important, but I have seen sometimes great buildings, palatial buildings do not make a good school. Even an average infrastructure with quality teachers makes a school. And you will say, sir, quality teachers is not our job, that's your job. Dear friends, we have chosen out of 10 or 15 a teacher. Across the years, we have tried to train that teacher. We have to upbring that teacher. It's not very easy to make somebody a teacher. It takes years. They are teachers. They are doing their best. They will have their weaknesses as you and I have. We can keep on improving upon their weaknesses. That's where I am. That's what my work is. I will assure you that within a year, you will find my teachers far more capable than anybody across Varanasi, than anybody across UP. I promise you this much. And my teachers will, with their head high, walk along Varanasi and say, I am a teacher. I am proud of the fact that I am a teacher. And I can handle my classes better than anybody else. But where is the support? Where is the help that they need? If Professor Handu supports them, if Professor Handu pats them on the back, if the management tries to give them whatever incentives they can, whatever encouragement they can, maybe a smile from Pooja madam in the morning, maybe a shake of hands and a wink of the eyes from Rashmi madam, maybe a word of encouragement from Baba. These are our incentives that we can give them. Your incentives are just a word of appreciation. When they write that your child is doing very well, say thanks, it's all because of you. When they say, I need your help, say, I'm always at your service. When they call you, please tell them, I'm sorry, I cannot come tomorrow because I have an important office meeting. I'll be coming on Sunday. Will it be possible for you to meet me at 11 or give me a call? We can talk. Communication between two, the channel should always remain open. The more open you keep the communication, and if the problem is serious, well, then our principals are very matured people. They have been as teachers for the past 10, 20 years. Some of them are into administration for the past 5, 6 years. Some of them in best schools of the country. They can understand your problems and find out solutions to them, get back to them as quickly as possible, and allow us to take these schools into the new policy that's being implemented. By 21-22, we'll have complete implementation of a new curriculum, of a new design, of a new mechanism of teaching, of a new mechanism of assessment. That's all we require to do. And we need your support. Your support can come in terms of engagements, in terms of looking after whether your child is following the instructions given to him, because he is spending a major chunk of his time at home. And you have to ensure that this time that he spends at his home is not spent with his peers, is not spent on the social media, is spent with his books, is spent with literature, is spent with the assignments given to him by his teachers, or is spent with you, because what he will learn from his father and mother in terms of his behavior, in terms of your experiences when you share them, he will not learn from us. I think that's more than enough from me. I wouldn't expose everything on the very first day. I have been able to make these commitments of our growth and progress. I promise you that I will come back to you within 6 months' time and tell you where we have changed, what things we have done, and perhaps that day I'll ask you to speak out what changes we have done. Our principals will be sending you a letter which will contain all the important SOPs that have come out from the government so far. We'll cull out the necessary points also. They may send you a PPT of our preparedness. From another school, you may get a video of our preparedness. We may ask you, this is my request to you, if you would like to see the preparedness of the school, please come and visit. Just give the principal a call and tell him, Madam, I would like to come to the school and see how prepared you are. If it's not possible for you to come because you are yourself engaged somewhere, please tell us, Madam, on the next Sunday, can you carry us for a virtual visit? We can, using a camera, carry you through our school and show you what kind of preparation we have made. So we can take you on a virtual visit of the school, which has been done in some classes already. With some parents it has been done. We can do it with all of you. And if you have any doubts, please ask us very frankly. But we can only answer where the government has given us certain guidelines. We can't answer on those. I mean, those have to be followed by both you as well as us. We have to use the mask. We have to use the concept of social distancing. We have to ensure that we sanitize ourselves. And this is not only for the school. When the child reaches back the school, see that he washes his hands and sanitizes them. You see that he leaves his school bag outside the door and it is sanitized before it is brought in. See that he takes off his shoes outside and does not bring them into the home. So while we protect him in the school, you have to protect him at home, because he will be traveling from school to home and home to school. If we both cooperate, I can assure you, with the blessings of Almighty, I am sure Kashi Vishwanath is with us, because our intentions are honest. And we are dealing with a population that's going to be the future of both you and us. It's the future of our country. It's the future of your family. Therefore, he will bestow all his prayers and good wishes on us, and we will look after these children. Anything specific Rashmi or Pooja Madam would like me to answer? Anything specific? If you have seen in the chat box that there is some parent seeing something, wanting something, I would definitely take 2 or 3 minutes and answer that, and close it by 1:15 if you allow me. Is there Rashmi ji? Unmute kar dijiye. Beta Krishna, unmute Madam Pooja, unmute Madam Rashmi.
Done, sir.
Thank you so much, Handu sir, for enlightenment. I'm sure parents must be very happy.
You don't need to thank me. Please don't thank me. Whatever I am doing for the sake of my pleasure, because it gives me joy. Don't thank me, please.
We are quite happy. Now you are associated with the Dalim Sunbeam group of schools. And I'm sure under your guidance, school will definitely catch more heights, will reach, will definitely fulfill all the dreams of the parents, what they think about their child. And during this pandemic, as we all are very much taking care, I expect each and every parent, whatever suggestions were given by Handu sir, we all should follow that. Everybody should understand there's a time everybody has to be safe at their places, and they all have to take care of their child as well as themselves. And I hope each and every doubt you have already cleared of the parents, because this is the time they have to think what is good, sitting at home, which way they have to nurture their child, sitting at home, which way they have to take care of the child, for each and everywhere, because everybody is very depressed sitting at home since 7 months. And it's quite difficult time for everyone, because going outside, people are scared. They might get infections. They might get virus. So sitting at home, the way they have to make their life full of quality. So your guidance would definitely fulfill all their dreams and whatever the queries they have. And if they all will follow, definitely in coming examination of class 9 to 12, what examination school is also conducting, and the board exam is, board has, CBSE has given the guideline. If they'll follow, definitely students are going to score better. And the way CBSE every time is giving the guideline, many doubts would be clear of all the parents.
Madam Pooja, on behalf of my principals, I assure you that our results, which have been 100%, occasionally maybe a child was in compartment, it has otherwise been 100% always. I assure them that the results this year are going to be 100%. This is my promise to them. And they can compare last 5 years results, and they will see we will have more children in the bracket of more than 90%, scoring more than 90%. This is my commitment, because yesterday I had a talk with my principals for more than 2 hours, and I have been meeting since September now, my principals. I know the intentions with which they are going ahead. the preparations that they have made. They have been spending, I tell you, sleepless nights in thinking over all these issues and strategizing. And now their strategy needs proper implementation, and somebody, you, me, Rashmi, Babaji, to support them and to keep on encouraging them. We need to support them. These are crucial times. I'm glad, Baba, I could see him back here. Sir, I'm very sorry. I could not use bilingual because my mother tongue is Kashmiri, and my friends here would never understand Kashmiri. My father admitted me at the age of 3 to an English medium school, and the first gentleman taught me English. The only thing I could do is change my pronunciation slightly and make me speak English as if I was speaking Hindi. That's all I could do. I am good at speaking Hindi. I can speak Hindustani, not Hindi. But I thought, no, some of my teachers may get this as a link that tomorrow we will start talking in bilingualism in my classes. No, I wouldn't do that. I am sorry, but if my parents want, in my second meeting, I'll try to talk to them only in Hindi. Then I won't use English. Because that way my teachers will get an example that if you are teaching Hindi, teach in Hindi. If you are teaching Sanskrit, teach in Sanskrit. And if you are teaching English, teach in English. Don't go for translation methods, which we do not follow. Although I should have done that. Not only because the parents would have been better able to understand me, but it was almost, I would say, an order from you. But I was not confident that I could speak correctly. I may speak wrong Hindi, and they would all laugh at me, even though that would be good. Giving them a little joy, creating a little laughter would be very interesting. I'm so grateful to you for providing me this opportunity of exposing what we are going to do. Our focus is going to be education, which is value-based. Quality education with Indian ethos. Our focus is going to be to build up the child in all the dimensions of the personality, not only intellectual. Marks will be very, very important. That will be our priority number one. But in addition to marks, if he is a good communicator, if he is good at values, if he is well behaved, if he respects his parents and his teachers and respects all elders, well, that's more important. That to me is far more important. I am so grateful to you for giving me this opportunity, sir.
So soon we people are opening
Thank you so much for being there. And need not to worry, the Hindi part can be taken up by me sometimes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, and the best part of everything is you remind us of our school days, our school days, our student days, and I'm really grateful to you, again. No words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please ask your driver to drive carefully. You are in a car, I think. Yes, yes, you are being driven. Because
Yes,
you indicated to your driver ki seedhe chalo. So you have to keep a track of the road also. Thank you very much.
I have been all through the webinar. I have been all through your discussions.
God bless
but,
you.
Yes, at times I was vanishing, but staying online, listening to everybody, just to give him directions. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, Madam Bhuvan.
Thank you.
Hello. So finally, one request I would like to give it to all the parents. Please send your Google form for your consent, with your consent. If you want to send your child to the school, as said by Professor Handu, we are ready with all measures, with all SOP which has come by government. We are ready to open the school. If you want to visit, please visit virtually. Or if you want to visit in person, you are most welcome for that. And please send your consent, then only we can make out how to start the school and how many students are going to attend that. Accordingly, we'll do all the arrangement, but simultaneously we'll be running our online classes also. If you're not interested to send your child for the safety, there's no problem. We are open for online classes also and offline classes. So whatever would be your suggestions, it's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Krishna, need
Yes,
you
sir.
on phone. I need you. You can close the meeting, and then I'll talk to you. I'll be talking to Pooja madam for a minute afterwards also. I'll give you a call.
I would say thank you all, parents,